Hi, I'm David Davis from ActualTech Media. We're here at VMworld 2018. I'm excited to be joined by Mr. Dave Overbeek, Director of Technical Marketing at VMware. How you doing, Dave?
Good, how are you, David?
Doing great.
Excellent.
Thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
We're here at VMworld, and we have been giving out my book, the Guerrilla Guide to VMware vRealize Operations, and I'm excited to have you by, because I want to talk about something that I covered in the book. Well, and in fact, they covered it in the keynote as well, which is self-driving, this idea of self-driving operations. So what is that, Dave?
So it's the idea of automating the data center as much as you can so the customers can do other things, really.
Okay.
And to us, self-driving is really split into three tenets. The first is this idea of workload optimization, which is ensuring that your applications and workloads never end up facing any contention because they're either right-sized automatically or they're moved somewhere to, like, for instance, another cluster where they're not facing any contention when contention starts driving into that other cluster that it's currently on. The next tenet is really the idea of efficient capacity management and driving down your costs as low as possible while ensuring that all of those workloads that we're concerned about and all those applications you're concerned about have capacity growth for the future. So being able to look at the trends and understand where things are going to say, I need more capacity here, and I can steal it from over here, or I just need to buy some more, or maybe even migrate some of those workloads off to the public cloud or hybrid cloud.
Right.
And believe it or not, the last tenet of self-driving is not self-driving at all. It's actually giving the customer the ability to put their hands back on the wheel, because I can automate as much as I possibly can, but there's going to be times when there's, if you will, the analogy, a pothole in the road, or traffic jam or something, where I just need to be able to grab the wheel and look at logs, look at metrics, look at alerts, delve deep into it, share that information with my counterparts in my operations center, and solve a problem.
Okay.
And those are the three tenets, right?
Okay. So this is all around, kind of what I call intent-based infrastructure or intent-based applications. There's a lot of different names for it, but basically we want our applications to run a certain way. We want them to be, highly available, have great performance, and be able to ensure that that's the case now and in the future. So let's talk about this workload optimization. Can you tell us a little bit about how this works?
Sure, so the workload optimization, exactly like you said, it's all intent-based, right? So it's the idea of telling vRealize Operations, this is my intention for this data center, for this cluster, for this application, and having it make decisions for you automatically, but doing it in a way that meets your operational and business intent.
Okay.
So those two terms I just brought up are kind of important because that's how we look at it. We use those two vectors, if you will, to determine what's best for this workload. When I'm looking at a custom data center or a data center, I say, what is its operational intent? Let me give you a couple of examples. So in my production environment, I have a number of production clusters. My operational intent is best performance possible. So I'm going to balance the workloads and the applications across those production clusters, giving myself a little bit of breathing room in case there's a sudden spike. I'm not hopefully going to face any contention. But in my test environment, I may be trying to drive my costs as low as possible, in which case maybe consolidation is what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to try to move all those VMs into the first cluster and then fill up the next cluster, then fill up the next. So that's operational intent.
Okay. And I mean, every vSphere admin out there knows about DRS, or Distributed Resource Scheduler. So when they hear about this workload optimization, kind of their knee-jerk reaction might be like, well, what about DRS? Doesn't it already do that?
That's a really good point. So if you think about it this way, DRS is doing a great job moving workloads between hosts within the cluster.
Okay.
But what if that cluster gets full? What if I'm so stressed out, I've got so much contention going on that I just can't move anything anywhere where it's going to be safe and happy.
Yeah.
And that's where DRS doesn't fail, you're not giving it any room for places to go.
Right.
This is where vRealize Operations can come in and say, but wait a second, that's just one production cluster out of 7.
Yeah.
Why aren't we moving these workloads across clusters? So if you think about it very simply, DRS within the cluster, vRealize Operations across the clusters.
Okay, yeah, and I think I wrote in the book actually, DRS is intra-cluster, workload optimization is inter-cluster. Yeah, okay. To use the internet, intranet, type terms there. So this sounds very cool. I mean, especially for a lot of companies, they've got these big production applications, multiple clusters. They're already using DRS, but they need to take it to the next level, and vROps can help them to do that. It can help to balance these workloads across multiple clusters.
And that's where like the business intent side of it comes in.
Okay.
So the business intent is actually, very simply, we're using vCenter tags. A lot of our customers are using vCenter tags today.
Yeah.
They've already given these VMs or their applications specific tags based on what they mean for it, what they want it to do. And we're bringing that information into vRealize operations and using it for a business tagging purposes. What that means is I can do compliance now automatically. I can do cluster-based license enforcements automatically. I can do SLA tiering automatically. The way we do that is you tag a VM, you tag a cluster, that VM must be on that cluster. It's as simple as that. So when I go and balance things out, I can have, here's my PCI compliant clusters, here's my non-PCI compliant clusters, and make sure when I do start doing balance in the data center, this VM that's tagged for PCI compliance only remains on that particular cluster or set of clusters. The same thing with license enforcement, which is a huge, huge selling point and a huge interest to our customers. Be able to say, look, I've got these Oracle clusters, I've got these Microsoft clusters, I've got these Linux clusters, everything needs to be balanced. I want to click a button and I want to balance things, I want to keep everybody happy, but I also don't want to break that licensing.
Yeah, and I bet that can save some of these large
lots of money.
Companies like hundreds of thousands of dollars on licensing, or simply just to enforce the licensing policies they already have. Yeah.
And we have the ability, I don't want to go into too much detail because it requires a whole whiteboard discussion, but
right.
We have the ability to get down to actually the host level and work with DRS to not only drop it into a specific cluster, but a lot of our customers have, look, I've got one or two really big clusters and I need to be able to fence things off by host. To be able to say, look, these are my 2 Oracle hosts in this cluster.
Right.
These are my Microsoft, these are my Linux. And we actually work with DRS to teach DRS our business intent by writing and enabling DRS rules within DRS to say, DRS, you need to make sure when you're making the moves inter-cluster, I think I got the term right, that it stays within these 2 hosts in that cluster.
Right, yeah, and that's so important for licensing requirements. So, very cool. So if a company wants to try this out or get some experience with it, what do you recommend, Dave?
There's a couple things they can do. They can certainly download the newest version of vRealize Operations, always a good choice.
Yeah.
We have a hands-on lab that will go into depth of this and walk you through a couple of examples. I believe it's number 1901, but you can certainly get into the hands-on labs and look for vRealize Operations. We also have a new website that we're kind of promoting, and that's vRealize.vmware.com. And that has a number of walkthroughs and videos specifically around this particular solution and use case.
Okay, vRealize.vmware.com.
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time today, Dave.
Great, thanks for having me.